there's two like critical mistakes that will actually hurt you if you are not careful to do it correctly. So let's say that your free shipping threshold is $100 and the customer has $76 in their cart. So they need to add $24 more to their cart to reach that threshold. But what if we could just recommend that to them right on the cart?
One of my clients does do the gift wrap, and they also do personalization, right? So there's a upsell on their product page, right? Add personalization for $8, you know? Like that's a perfect little increase in AOV. Leighton, I actually want to pick your brain a lot on AOV because I honestly don't know much about it. Especially the nitty gritty and like what it actually means, because you always hear people saying, you know, increase your AOV and you can like, you know, have this massive effect, right? If you change the number from this to that. But I feel like, knowing the world of digital marketing as I do, that people glam it up a lot, and that realistically it's going to be really difficult in a lot of industries to increase your AOV. Like you probably, same with like conversion rate, right? Conversion rate is very difficult to change. Sometimes you do all this stuff, you make things so much prettier, work better, and you don't really get a change in conversion rate. I have a feeling AOV is kind of similar, but there are some tried and true stuff that typically works. I have no clue though, right? I'm a complete beginner. I haven't done much AOV specific implementations or looked at the results from them. So like, yeah, take me through as a newbie on AOV. Have you worked on some projects where you intentionally sort of increased AOV or like wanted to? Where did that, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah. So of course, by AOV, we're talking about average order value. And if you look in your analytics in Shopify, they show you that number and you can look, you know, what's my AOV been over the past 30 days, 90 days, 12 months, whatever time period you want. And you can also compare that against the previous time periods. You can say, what was my AOV in the past 30 days, but then compare that to the previous 30 days and see if it's gone up or down or stayed about the same. So obviously, you know, more revenue is better for an e-commerce business. Like that's kind of a no-brainer, right? So AOV is one of those kind of metrics that you can try to optimize for. Like you said, conversion rate is one. And it's interesting to think about how they kind of multiply on each other. So you have your conversion rate and then your AOV and then your repeat purchase rate. And those are like three different metrics to look at. But if you just turn the dial a little bit on each of those metrics, each one multiplies on the previous one, right? So in terms of its effect on your overall revenue, and then also importantly on your return on your ad spend, right? So if for every dollar you spend on ads, you're currently making $5. If you can increase that by 10, 20% to, let's say, $5.50 or $6, then you're generating more revenue for the same ad spend, which allows you to turn around and put more into that flywheel, generate more revenue. So there's really kind of a compounding effect with these different metrics that you're looking at.
100%. And I also see oftentimes that if people don't have their foundations, I would say AOV's conversion rate, things like this, even net profit margin, a lot of those are foundational business concepts for e-com. And if you don't have those dialed in, then sometimes ads don't even work because all the competition do. And so they're willing to pay, you know, $50 for a customer because they know they can increase AOV of that customer. They know the lifetime value. They know that they're upselling with email, whatever it is. So sometimes when people don't have some of these core concepts down, then ads are like considerably less worth it. And so, yeah, I mean, there's some very big importance here. So I'll let you continue.
Yeah, and I think along those lines, the slimmer your margins are, the more of an impact your AOV will have, right? Because like if you're a drop shipper, let's say, and you have 10 or 15% margin, if you can boost your AOV by 10%, you've just doubled your profits, right? Well, not quite if you're factoring those same margins into the AOV, but it's a significant increase in your profit. So you've mentioned this before, Patrick, in terms of with your advertising spend, how it's really important to know your numbers, not just your gross revenue, but what's your net profit. And like, how much can we afford to spend on ads? And so I think that this relates to that as well. It's really important to know your numbers and to know like what's our net profit, and then how is that impacted if we can boost our cart size, our average order value, and then start playing with the numbers from there. And this kind of leads into like one of the most common and kind of quickest wins that you can test on your store for AOV, and that is to, in the cart, to have messaging around some kind of free shipping threshold. So let's say, for example, that you are offering free shipping on orders of $100 or more. So if somebody has $70 in their cart, then you show a little progress bar and you show how close they are to reaching that threshold, and that they only need to add, $30 more to their cart to reach to get free shipping. But the tricky part is some store owners can't actually afford to offer free shipping without losing money unless the order is large enough. So whatever boost you're offering to try to increase your AOV and get that threshold met has to actually make sense for you. So you do have to make sure that you're actually looking at your numbers, that you're doing your bookkeeping and accounting, and that you actually know if you're going to make more money by increasing AOV or if it's actually going to eat into your profits more than you might think.
Yeah, know your numbers, name of the game. And it's so funny because while you were talking, I did check one of my clients, and typically a lot of them have this stuff figured out before. If they don't, I might send them to someone else because yeah, they oftentimes like the checkout thing. They almost all have this one I'm looking at now has like a little emoji that's like add $60 to get free shipping, and a progress bar. That's definitely a good win there.
Yeah. And there's actually been testing done by Baymart. I love Baymart, look at their stuff a lot. And they've tested static messaging versus a dynamic progress bar. So some store owners might, in their cart, they might have a little icon and it says, free shipping on orders over $100, but it doesn't actually update to show you how close you are to free shipping. If you just need to add one more thing, $18 more or whatever to reach that threshold, having that dynamic messaging with a progress bar versus just a static message actually does have an impact. So a little optimization like that can make the difference, even if your policy is the same, but just making it a bit more visually engaging and interactive to the user. So
I love.
another
And before you, sorry to cut you off, but I was jumping in the Shopify site, and it looks like they're using maybe Monster Cart upsells. It's an app, and I'm trying to see if that's the right one or not, because people oftentimes have multiple apps that they're looking at. Yeah, it looks like it is the one they're currently using. So just wanted to share that. That seems like a decent app. It looks kind of pretty to me. Maybe a place to sort of start to look at stuff.
Okay. Yeah, I haven't used that. I'm not familiar with it. A lot of themes now that you get in the Shopify theme store will come with a free shipping progress bar already built in, which is nice. And then another common feature or thing that you can test on your store that many themes now support is having cross sells in the cart. So after somebody adds an item to their cart, they get to the cart page, or maybe you have a slide out cart drawer. If you can recommend complementary items there in the cart, and that someone can easily just click with one click and add it to their cart, that can boost AOV. And that, when combined with the free shipping threshold, they work really well together because that makes it easy for somebody to see something that they could add as an impulse purchase, basically, to reach that threshold and get free shipping, versus having to close the cart and go hunting for an item that will meet that threshold. However, there's a really common mistake that people make when they have cross sells in the cart. And actually there's two like critical mistakes that will actually hurt you if you are not careful to do it correctly. So what you don't want to do is just add a cross-sell widget in your cart that recommends products without actually thinking about what's being recommended in the cart. And the first mistake people make is that the items in the cart are just not really relevant to what the customer already has in their cart. If I add, let's say, a mattress to my cart, and I'm browsing one of those online mattress stores, and I get to the cart, and then they start recommending like a carpet cleaning product or like a light bulb or something in the cart, like that's completely unrelated to what I already have in my cart. And the issue here is not just that customers will ignore it and that it won't be effective, but also it can actually break trust with the user because they start viewing your site and your recommendations as not really smart enough to trust with their behavior. So it can actually hurt the user's perception of your site if you're recommending these totally irrelevant products in the cart. And then the second mistake people make is that they'll actually show cross-sell items in the cart that are replacements for what the customer already has in their cart. So if I get to the cart and I have a mattress in my cart, the absolute wrong thing to show me as a cross-sell is a different mattress, right? Because now I'm questioning my decision. Like, did I pick the right one? I should go back and like look at this other mattress and read all the specs and like compare and maybe I get too hung up on doubt, and now I'm like, maybe I should wait and research this some more. Or I go start shopping somewhere else. So you don't want to.
But you might have just shot yourself in the foot.
Yeah, yeah. So you don't want to recommend an alternative to what somebody already has in their cart. So the key is to have highly relevant complementary items that go well with the thing that's already in the cart. So if somebody's buying a mattress, maybe you offer sheets that would fit that mattress, or this is a little bit less relevant, but maybe like a bedside lamp that they could put on their nightstand. If they're kind of like, furnishing their bedroom, then maybe they're thinking about other items that are in that same like part of the house and kind of meet the same need. Like, they're thinking about what is my routine when I go to bed, and like making sure that I'm comfortable in that. So little things that kind of surround or related to that purchase are good to be thinking about. And this probably requires some testing to see like what do people actually pick up on, but at least have that intention of making it a complementary relevant item to whatever's already in the cart.
Yeah, and I feel like we can learn a lot from some of the traditional retail places, like, I don't even know, probably Best Buy, Dollar General. Like, all of them have the little carts right where you're at the end of purchase. You can buy like some gum or something. So I mean, that's kind of like the almost initial idea probably was from retail.
Yeah, and that's almost like a very low ticket like impulse purchase. Like, I'm going to throw some candy in my cart, some gum, maybe a little bottle of hand sanitizer. And then if you're doing that, then it doesn't really matter what they have in their cart. If it's kind of like little add-on items that could kind of go with anything, then you could definitely test that as well. But it probably should not be like, light bulbs or something that's like completely specific, but not really relevant to what they're currently buying. But if it's more kind of a general, impulse purchase, that's probably okay too.
If we go tactical, how specific can you get? Like, are we talking, the system can kind of detect that you're having like a really perfect item as an add-on. So like, could you go a little bit more into how you can optimize that?
Yeah, so Shopify does have their own recommendation engine, which is what powers. If you're on a product page, you'll see like a related products section. That's what's powering that. As far as I'm aware, it's probably not smart enough to be this hyper specific complementary cross sell item. So to do this really well, you're probably going to have to either use a third-party app that is specifically meant to do this, which honestly, I don't know of one that is that specific. I guess there are apps that will let you sort of hand pick items that go together. And so that's one option if you have the time to go through and kind of manually assign products as being grouped together in these sort of related families.
And I think this is kind of a similar thing as that sort of people also buy sections on product pages that you always see.
Yep.
So one website I always go back to in e-com is Amazon, because they have probably spent more than anyone testing and doing results and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
And they have a really good people also buy sections, right? It'll always be relevant. Like if you're buying a pond, it'll be like pond dye or like something that is relevant.
Yeah. And I think you're talking about what I would typically call the frequently bought together widget. It's like a little box on the page. Usually, I think it's been on the left side, kind of under the product images, and it'll say frequently bought together. And it'll show you like 2 or 3 items, including the item that you're currently looking at, but then some other related items. And then there's also a checkbox next to each item, and then a button to add all 3 to your cart at once. So it's almost like a bundle. And then sometimes you'll get a discount if you add all 3 to your cart at once. So yeah, that's another good thing to test as a way to boost your AOV is on the product pages, having those related products for sure. But then I guess once you've gone to the trouble of creating those like groups of related products and you've got it on the product page, then why not just show those same related products in the cart if the customer doesn't already have them in their cart?
Yeah, so that's the logic that kind of comes up in terms of how to combine these products.
Yeah. And another way that these recommended products in the cart can be dynamic and really specific to the customer as they're currently browsing your site is to tailor the dollar value of the products based on what they would need to hit that free shipping threshold. So let's say that your free shipping threshold is $100 and the customer has $76 in their cart. So they need to add $24 more to their cart to reach that threshold. So I don't know about you, but sometimes I'll be in that situation where like, oh, I'm almost to the free shipping threshold. So now I got to go browse the site and like try to find something that's just the right price to where it gets me over the threshold, but I'm not spending too much money.
Yep.
But what if we could just recommend that to them right on the cart? So if you can find a $24, $25, $30 item and show those as recommended add-ons or cross-sells right there in the cart, then they can easily with one click add it and hit that free shipping threshold. So again, that's one where I don't actually know of any apps that specifically do that, where it looks
Hmm.
at the cart value and then recommends an item based on that to hit a certain threshold.
Yeah.
But it is something you could do with a custom built feature.
Yeah. That's really cool. That's really cool. And so, yeah, tell me more. I'm fascinated because like we have these essentially upselling. So all of this we've been talking about so far is upselling. So, super common sales idea. You do that in services as well. You can upsell someone a additional service. Like if you fix their roof, you can say, hey, well, you want me to fix your deck, right? So upsells, classic sort of concept, and it applies really well to e-com sites and even in some creative ways, like the Walmarts and stuff. They really kind of have that in checkout area. They have to have just like gum or something because they're not able to customize it per customer.
Right.
We as being a digital product, we actually can do that. So you can customize it. You can say, hey, they're buying this, and so I'm going to offer that. And you can do
Mhm.
all these cool logic things to increase AOV. So I think that's really amazing. Really, I guess there's two sides, and I'll let you choose where to go with it. One would be tactically, like how does somebody go about testing this, adding in new stuff? And then two, any other sort of AOV hacks or improvements that you would typically make.
Yeah. As far as practically speaking, like how would you go about trying this and testing it? One app that we have had a lot of our clients use, and we mentioned this on our episode about Shopify apps as well, is called Rebuy. And they have their own, they call it a smart cart. It's like a slide out cart drawer, and it has a lot of these features built in, like the free shipping progress bar and cross sells. They also include some cool upsells, where as an example, let's say you have a subscription product or an item that somebody can purchase either one time or as a subscription. And if the customer adds it to their cart as a one-time purchase and they get to the cart, then in the rebuy cart, it'll give them a chance to upgrade it to a subscription and save 10% or whatever. And so it's kind of giving them one more opportunity to have that more valuable version of the purchase. And that actually is not even specifically related to AOV. That's more of an LTV play, but still kind of relevant as something that we're doing in the cart to like optimize for profitability for that from that one customer.
Yeah. So rebuy engine, I love that you mentioned that because I hear it quite all over the place in like the Facebook Shopify Plus group, some of that stuff.
Mhm.
I some of my clients have it. I haven't really touched it. So I'm curious, like, can you bring me through a little bit about rebuy and say if we had our own Shopify store that we were collaborating on, like what elements of it would you add on? Because I know that it has different like sections, right? So you mentioned the
Mhm.
smart cart, but it also has like collections and product recommendations and all kinds of stuff. It's a very large product. So take me through this rebuy.
Yeah. So it's a very powerful app and they can do a lot like you were talking about. I think they even have like a search, an on-site search results filtering page. They have product recommendations on the product page, like replacing Shopify's native you may also like type section. And honestly, I'm not even familiar with all of the other sections and features that they have. I think they've grown a lot and expanded into new areas. But the one I'm most familiar with is the smart cart or that cart drawer. And then within that, the most common elements to use are the free shipping bar, the cross sell items, and then often as well, if you want to, you can add these little like trust icons that highlight things like your guarantees, your return policy, things like that, like down near the checkout button as a way to build credibility and trust, which is more about a conversion rate optimization. But it can be a fairly expensive app, depending on your usage and your store's revenue. You might be paying a few $100 a month for it. So it's the kind of thing where it's often worth using and testing for a quick setup to get a lot of these features on day one right away very easily. And then in the long term, you might want to think about, are there things that we could rebuild on our own without rebuy if that cost is a barrier. But it's ultimately about the return on investment, right? So if you're paying a few $100 a month but it's generating you know thousands, tens of thousands of revenue, then it probably still makes sense. But like
Yep.
some of those features are things that you can, custom build into your theme.
Yep, that makes sense. And I'm actually looking at the website here, and so they have the products and features. Cart and merchandising is their first one, so
Hmm.
it sounds like that's where they got their name. That's a
Yep.
smart cart, merchandising widgets, dynamic bundles, so that's kind of nice. So I guess you can build out your own bundles if that's something you want to do.
Yep.
And then there's the search and collections, checkout and post purchase, and then A/B testing stuff. So yeah, definitely an interesting tool. I've heard it can be pretty expensive as well.
Mhm.
So that might be the drawback for some people.
Yeah, and you mentioned another thing there that is another strategy, regardless of what app or approach you're using, but a good strategy to think about is offering build your own bundles, customizable bundles. And we have one client who's been really successful with this, where they sell individual items on regular product pages. But below the add to cart button, they have a little text link that just says build a set and save. And if you click on that, it takes you to a bundle builder page where the product that you were just on is already in the bundle because that's where you came from. But then you can add more items to your bundle, and you can the bigger your bundle, the more you save. So if you add 6 items to your bundle, then you're gonna save $3. If you add 9 items, you're gonna save $5 or whatever. And so then you're kind of giving the customer this cool interactive experience where they can choose other items that sort of go together. And based on the client's niche, their industry, it really makes sense to have clients like bundle a bunch of items together at once and for one order.
Yep.
So yeah, that's just a way where like on every product page in the site, and they have hundreds of products. You're mentioning the fact that oh yeah, you can bundle these together, or just kind of mix and match anything from our site and save. So that's a really cool way to increase your AOV. And for this client, it's a pretty significant portion of their revenue, and it's been really successful.
That's amazing. Yeah, and I think that's where it just is so important to think about your own industry and what you sell, what you do,
Hmm.
and because every industry is different. And so there are some, I mean, like the checkout one probably works in those industries, but like there are going to be certain, what products you're recommending, why you're recommending them. It's going to be really kind of dependent, and maybe even how you want to present that information or ever whatever it might be, right? So like if you're in the crafting niche and they're buying like what are those things where they take yarn and kind of crocheting, right? So like then obviously you need yarn to go with your crochet. They might already have yarn, but if you have like a bunch of yarns, maybe they're like, "Oh, I really like that pretty one," or whatever it might be, but really thinking through your target audience, what do they need? Like if you're buying a crochet thing, then what are the other products that they're actually going to need
Hmm.
to do their crocheting? What are they
Yep.
going to want? What are they going to need? And then thinking through that. So, like, as you mentioned, like in that example, you're going to need a lot of yarn, especially if you do a lot of crocheting. So, a bundle might even make sense. Get
Hmm.
this quick bundle with 3 things of yarn, pick your color, anything like that. And so, I definitely think with AOV and all these sort of things, just customizing for your specific industry and target customer can make things a lot more effective.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. So we've been talking a lot about things you can do earlier in the buying journey. So on the product page and in the cart, there are also things you can do at checkout and after checkout that can be pretty impactful. So if you're on Shopify Plus, you can also add cross-sell items in the checkout pages with checkout extensions, and there are certain apps that can help with that, making it easy. I think one is called Checkout Blocks that has a lot of sort of pre-made elements you can add in your checkout pages. But one that whether you're on Shopify Plus or not, one that everybody should consider is some kind of immediate post-purchase cross-sell. So when somebody completes a purchase, they're on that thank you page. Is there something we could offer them here, like one last chance to add something to your order and kind of take advantage of like if they've already gotten free shipping and they know their order's going to be there in 3 days or whatever, it might be a good chance to say like, by the way, like if you want to get this with your same shipment and not have to like come back later for it or pay shipping if you just realize you need it, like go ahead and add this thing to your cart too. And there are apps that can do that.
Yeah, that's a really good point because I've seen those be effective as well. Even Amazon has like a little add to your order button. So on other product pages, so the way users use Amazon, they might have bought something this morning and then like come back an hour like, oh, I also need, cat litter or something like that. And so
Hmm.
then they go there and then the buttons like add to your existing order or your shipment. And so all that kind of stuff, the checkout extensions, I've seen them across ecom. I feel like they're probably like it probably depends on your audience, but I think they're probably a best practice that would be good. And so I assume those are similar products, right? So in the yarn example, it would pretty much be maybe like a fancy crochet extension or something.
Mm.
probably not more yarn,
Yeah.
but it could be. So like, is there any differences between what the sort of upsell would be at the post purchase?
Yeah, I mean, I think you're right that it could be more of the same type of product if it's like a lower ticket item where someone is usually or very often going to be purchasing multiples. So going back to my earlier example, if someone's buying a mattress, you probably don't need to recommend another mattress at this point. I guess some people might be buying multiple, but I guess you could look at your analytics and your order history and see like what percentage of customers are buying multiple of the same item or the same type of item, kind of base your decision on that. With yarn, I could see like somebody might buy like a bunch of different colors or types. I'm not sure what all the variations are with it within yarn, but I would imagine that some people actually do need like multiple different kinds, colors, whatever. And so, especially if you can offer them like a good reason, like if they know they're going to use this yarn eventually, like why not stock up on it with this purchase and get like a savings of some kind, whether that's a shipping upgrade or a discount of some kind. So I think that's a good thought. So yeah, I think it really comes down to the product and like what the customer behavior is typically. But if it's not the kind of thing where they're going to buy multiples, then we probably need to be pretty thoughtful about what related complementary items we can offer them, and whether that's like a really specific complementary item to the item they purchased, or maybe just kind of more of a generic impulse purchase, like you mentioned, like the gum in the checkout aisle. You can test both. I think the really specific complementary items are probably going to have a better chance at being successful at a higher ticket value, right? So let's say your AOV is $100 and you just sold an item for $100. You might be able to sell like an impulse purchase item for like $5 or $10 post purchase or in the cart, but someone's probably not going to impulse purchase like a $50 or $75 item on top of their $100 item because it feels like a larger purchase relative to what they already bought, right? It's not as much of an impulse decision. Whereas if you're recommending something really relevant to what they already bought, and they realize, oh, like I might actually need this to make the thing that I'm already buying more effective or make it more like beneficial for me, then you might be able to get away with selling something that's like 30 to 50% of your original AOV, and that's going to have obviously a bigger impact on your bottom line.
Yeah. And so we went through upsells, as particularly in the checkout, as well as on product pages, doing like a you may also combined with essentially idea. And then we went out post checkout extensions. Anything else we should be aware of as a Shopify merchant that is looking to increase AOV?
I think those are the big ones. And if I could kind of recap, the quickest wins I think people can focus on are considering adding a frequently bought together widget on product pages, possibly adding other kinds of like add-ons or accessories on the product page, recommending bundles on the product page and in your site navigation, having some kind of bundle builder if that's appropriate to your niche. And then in the cart, having really relevant complementary items to what's already in the cart. Those are probably going to be like the two biggest quickest wins that you can go for right away. And then also testing that post purchase cross sell. And yeah, I think that covers pretty much everything. And like we talked about Rebuy, like that's a good app that people can try out as a way to accomplish some of this very quickly. There are other apps as well that you could try out.
Yeah. And so those sounds like the core practices that are going to move the needle the most. But I'm curious, I imagine people like Amazon and Walmarts and big companies spend a lot of time thinking about AOV, conversion rate, and all of these things. And I would hope they're doing some kind of A/B testing, kind of like figuring it out. I imagine Amazon does really good at that. You see their product pages and there's these huge, beasts with tons of information, tons of products, tons of different, cross-selling and upselling and whatever else. And so, yeah, I'm curious about, should people, it sounds like people will probably stay in this sort of rebuy and some of these upsells that we're talking about. But I guess people can also investigate, A/B testing. That would maybe be the next level, is like testing, A/B testing, thinking about how maybe even the design of the site could affect AOV. If your homepage is like your homepage and collection pages are prioritizing the more expensive products, right? So if you have like a general crochet sets collection, and right now your cheapest crochet sets are at the top, and then you're able to make it where like the best selling highest, like the ones that you want to move are displayed. So kind of like how you're, even in a retail sense, it'd be how are you organizing your store?
Yeah.
Like when you walk
Mhm.
in, you want to prioritize the things you want to sell. That would be your homepage. And when you get into a specific category, you go to the crochet sets area. You might want to, have a little banner that shows your, the one you get the best profit margins on,
Mhm.
or whatever else. So I assume there's also this level that gets a little bit deeper and more custom, but could also have good effects for people that do it right.
Yeah, for sure. And that's a really good one is thinking about the collection page design. So like you said, how are the products in the collection actually sorted and which ones are at the top? But also on the collection page, you can have like a little sub collection navigation across the top of different subcategories within the collection. So there you might show the more expensive items, but also the lower ticket items so somebody's aware early on that okay, I can like kind of stock up on everything I need here. And you could also like as you were talking about that, I was thinking put together these sort of pre-made bundles and sell them as like a starter kit. So like with your yarn and knitting or crochet example, maybe you sell a starter kit that has like, 10 or 15 different colors of yarn and all the needles and all the things you're going to need, maybe a book like, how to get started. And you can package that up and sell it for a, a nice amount that's going to be probably higher than your typical AOV. And also stuff like that can be good to offer to promote as like a gift. If your products are something that might be given as a gift, then think about how can you package them for gifting. And actually, that brings to mind other things you can do in the cart, right? So maybe you add a gift bag that somebody can add, or gift wrap that somebody can add to their item in the cart. It could be a little checkbox where they check the box and then adds a $5 gift bag or gift wrap to their cart, or like a custom gift note or something. So that's another
Yeah,
way you can.
actually, that's a great example. So this is where you have more of those creative things that are very particular to the industry. But like
Hmm.
example of that, one of my clients does do the gift wrap because it's a common gift item, and they also do personalization, right?
Yeah.
So
Hmm.
there's a upsell on their product page, right? Add personalization for $8.
Yep.
That's a perfect little increase in AOV. So you can have on the product, somebody's name written on it.
Hmm.
Right? So, and then they created like a whole personalizer, interface where you can like write it in and you can see how it would look. And
Hmm.
so I think depending on the industry and what you're doing, you can get really creative. And I do find that some of these can be really good implementations. Like that yarn example you just gave would probably be really good on like
Hmm.
having that beginner kit. Cause you think about your customer and, if they're just getting into crocheting or something, they not even know what they need. So like, okay, I need yarn, I need crochet, but like, I don't know what else is out there.
Yep.
And if you kind of focus your website marketing to be selling a particular bundle, that would probably be a great way to see a tangible effect in your AOV.
Yeah. And there's lots of related things that are like possible things you can do here. So if you're thinking about this whole like starter bundle idea, then maybe then you start writing blog content that's like how to knit, how to crochet, like beginner's guide, and it gives you a lot of like good content to write about that then starts bringing in organic traffic and driving traffic to your product pages. Or with the gifting, like gift guides are really big. Like what's a good like you could write an article on like the coolest Father's Day gift of 2026 and like list out different ideas that can then bring in organic traffic and point to your products.
Exactly. And you can point particularly to that bundle. And
Hmm.
so those are really, really great ideas. So thank you, Leighton, so much for sharing those. Another one I've seen is just subscriptions. I mean, I've
Hmm.
gotten honestly annoyed because I've gotten burned by subscriptions before where they'll do the like they're like, hey, get a subscription, you just get such a good discount. And you're like, oh, I'll cancel that subscription right away because it's
Hmm.
something like, like I think it was like shampoo with me. And
Hmm.
uh and I was like, oh, I'll cancel the subscription. And then I end up with way too much shampoo. And so those can definitely be effective too. And whenever you see that it is like part of their like it is very integrated into what they do. Like a lot of the website, like their homepage, their product page, a lot of it is very focused on that subscription if that's a core way that they increase AOV.
Hmm.
Um and so kind of making the marketing all pointing in the same direction, I think could be helpful. And
Yeah.
so thank you so much. I feel like I've learned quite a bit here about AOV. So I appreciate you sharing your insight.
Yeah, yeah, it was great, and I think a lot of what we're talking about will also apply or be related to things that we can talk about with LTV or lifetime value. How do we get repeat purchases? Like you mentioned subscription, that's a big part of that. But other things we can do after someone's initial purchase to get them to come back and buy a second and third and fourth time. So that's something that we'll cover in a future episode. But yeah, these things are closely related.
Yep, and even conversion rate too. I feel like they all kind of connect in some ways. So like with the people buy together, you also just have the you may also be interested in, and that's a little bit of a different idea on like, well, if they don't want this product, then maybe they want these other products. So you see Amazon doing that a ton. And I would also love to, maybe we'll do an episode breaking down some of Amazon's tactics, because I do think they're it's a little cliche, but they're one of the prime examples I think everyone should just always remember, because the way they do stuff is unique to them, and it's not going to work for everyone. But I feel like there's also a lot of lessons that can be learned.
Yeah. And one quick thing, because you had mentioned Amazon and A/B testing, and just wanted to mention before we sign off that Rebuy actually has their own A/B testing capabilities built in. So if you want to use Rebuy for some of these features, you can also A/B test them and test like different cross sells against each other. So that's one cool thing you can explore. And I know this sounds a little bit like a Rebuy commercial. We're not incentivized or compensated to say anything about them. But just something that our
You
clients
got to
have
get a
actually used.
Rebuy sponsorship. What? We
Yeah,
should have thought about this.
maybe
We
set up
we
an
make
affiliate
these
link.
yeah, we make these
Yeah,
videos off the cuff, so
yeah,
we have no association to them. But yeah, I'm sure most Shopify people watching this probably have heard of it, even because it's so popular, that I've never really used it. Some of my clients have, so I'm very curious, on exploring that a little bit more too. But yeah, we get no money from Rebuy.
not yet. We'll see.
Rebuy, sponsor of the pod.
All right. Well, thanks, Patrick. I'll look forward to chatting with you next time.
Yeah. Talk next time. Bye, Leighton.